The first time Lucia Navarro noticed the cigar burns on her patient's fingers, she assumed they were the self-inflicted brandings of another sleepless surgeon. Daniel Gutierrez was brilliant, admired, and haunted. He sat in her office overlooking Madrid's Gran Via with an almost penitent posture, eyes fixed on a spot just beyond her shoulder. "Tell me again about the dream," she said. "It's not a dream, doctor," he whispered. "It waits for me in the street, breathing." "It? A black bull. The horns are made of broken scalpels." Lucia had heard nearly every metaphor a guilty mind could forge, yet Daniel's description carried an unsettling specificity. With gentle persistence, she guided him through diaphragmatic breathing, then wrote down the name of an antidepressant he would never take. After he left, the city lights came on one by one, and Lucia folded her notes around a question she could not phrase. Why did Daniel's account feel more report than nightmare? 2 nights later, she learned why. She was walking home through Malasana when a red cloak rippled through an alley beside the bar La Venganza. It moved like a living ribbon, then quickened into the arc of a practiced wrist. Lucia heard hooves on stone. Heavy, deliberate, yet wrong, as if the air itself were slamming the pavement. She rounded the corner. An enormous bull-shaped shadow occupied the alley, its edges shimmering like heat, but darker than the night behind it. Facing it was an elderly man in a matador's traje de luces, the silver embroidery dulled by age. He stepped, pivoted, drew the cloak across his body, and the shadow bull charged, silent, unstoppable, until it met the impossible physics of his cape, folded space, and vanished into a whirlwind of grey dust. The dust scattered, leaving only the man, breathing hard. Lucia stood frozen. The matador met her gaze, tipping an imaginary montera. "I suppose you'll have questions," he said. "Walk with me. The Guardia prefer alleys without bulls or witnesses." His name was Alejandro Ruiz, once the famed El Fenix. Retired after a goring that punctured a lung and the national imagination. He led her through a side door into the basement of La Venganza. Beneath the bar waited a circular chamber the size of a small plaza, lit by flickering sodium lamps. Rows of wooden benches ringed the sand. On the wall above the entrance was a charcoal mural, bulls bleeding into clouds that rained over Madrid. "This is the Plaza de la Sombra," Alejandro said. "We fight after midnight. The audience is regret itself." Lucia followed him past racks of capotes woven from crimson threads so dark it appeared wet. "Those things I saw?" she began. "Sombras," he corrected. "Shadow bulls, born from guilt thick enough to find a spine. Madrid has a century of it, layered like sediment. We retired ones keep the city from drowning in its own remorse." Cletia listened with clinical skepticism, yet the memory of silent hooves stuck in her ribcage. "You said guilt thick enough to find a spine," she echoed. "Is there a way to prevent them?" "Therapy, medication?" Alejandro chuckled without cruelty. "If every mortal sin had a good therapist, we'd be out of work. But people lie even to themselves, lies ferment, then sombras." He poured 2 glasses of rioja. They sat in the empty stands, the sand below whispering with draughts. "Why show me this?" she asked. "Because a bull the size of the Atacha concourse is forming, and it carries surgical horns," he said. "One of my scouts traced it to your patient, Daniel Gutierrez." Lucia froze. "He needs help, not slaughter." "You misunderstand. We don't kill the man. We kill what his guilt made. And if you fail, the Sombra breaks the skin between worlds. It won't stop at him. It will find everyone who reminds it of his failure. Families, children, you." Lucia swallowed the wine, tasted iron. "Then let me talk to Daniel first." "Doctora, we've tried dialogue with bulls. Their language is trampling." "Mine isn't." Alejandro allowed her 36 hours. "Daniel, waited in her office, eyes bloodshot, hands wrapped in gauze. "It's here," he said before she could sit. "It can't come inside," she assured him, though she was no longer sure. "Tell me about the child again." He pressed fingers to his eyelids. "Miguelito Lopez, age 7, appendix burst. I was lead resident. I misread the scan. He coded before dawn. When I scrub my hands, I see his mother, still in her hairnet, asking if she can hold him." "You've carried that image alone," she said softly. "Guilt metabolizes into things we can't predict. Sometimes illness, sometimes—" She searched for a word he would not dismiss. "Nightmares." "They're not dreams," he insisted. Lucia hesitated, then told him about the alley. Daniel did not flinch. "It will grow," he muttered. "With every heartbeat I waste wishing I could trade my life for his. Then let's confront it together." "You don't understand," he said. "Itty gentle." "It will devour gentle." He stood abruptly. The fluorescent light flickered as though something enormous brushed the building. Papers flew off her desk. Car alarms howled below. When the light steadied, Daniel was gone. Lucia grabbed her coat and phone. She typed one name. Alejandro. Midnight shuddered over Madrid like a held breath. Lucia descended the stairs beneath La Venganza into a cacophony of retirees sharpening memories into weapons. Some practiced Veronicas with empty capes. Others inspected barbed banderillas made of moonbeams frozen into glass. All bore scars luminous as pearls. Alejandro approached, offering a red scarf. "You will observe from the barrier," he said. "No," she replied. "I will go in." "You're a civilian, a pacifist." "Exactly. Suppose the bull can be tamed, not slain. Suppose Daniel needs to see compassion survive it." Alejandro's eyes narrowed. "Compassion really survives horns. Humor me." He led her to a small wardrobe. Inside hung a simple traje de luces, the gold embroidery subdued, almost entirely white. "Belonged to Isabel Delgado, once La Paloma. She fought with grace instead of brutality, died asleep at 93. Lucia traced the fabric. "She kept her soul clean. Or perhaps she spared enough bulls to appease something upstairs," Alejandro said. Minutes later, she stood in the arena's sand. The benches were empty. Regret does not need to watch to be satisfied. 3 other matadors entered. Manuelen, thin as a rail line, Rosa, whose limp told stories she never would, and Hector, his right arm a steel prosthetic. They formed a loose arc facing the far gate. A tremor rippled through the sand. The iron bars screeched upward. The bull that stepped out was bigger than folklore. Its hide mirrored an operating theatre's green. Veins pulsed electric white like overhead LEDs. Around its neck hung a single pediatric ID bracelet. Its horns, long as oars, glittered with scalpel edges. The bull lifted its head. Across the arena, fluorescent lights exploded. Darkness swallowed sound, then spat it back as a concussive snort. Rosa advanced first, cape flashing purple. The bull charged. Her spin was flawless, but the wind shear from its bulk tossed her like a rag. She hit the barrier, coughing blood. Manuel darted, fainted, planted 2 bandoliers of flat white steel. They cracked off the bull's back like chalk. It turned toward Lucia. She felt the air compress, smelled antiseptic and burning ozone. Her legs trembled, yet the training of years listening to the worst of human hearts anchored her. She took 1 step forward. "I know your name," she said quietly. "You are Daniel's grief." The bull paused. Steam curled from its nostrils. Its right eye, the size of a dessert plate, reflected surgical lamps. Alejandro shouted, "Move!" Lucia raised her empty hands, palms out. "You want punishment," she told the creature. "Because punishment feels like justice, but punishment cannot time travel." The bull pawed the sand, dragging gouges that hummed. Her voice trembled but held. Listen to me, Miguelito, she tried, using the lost boy's name. Perhaps it was crazy. Everything about this night was. Daniel loves you the only way he still can, by suffering. But suffering isn't payment. It's interest on a debt already forgiven. The bull's head tilted, uncertain. For a moment its horns dulled, becoming bone instead of metal. Then a fresh wave of energy coursed through its body, and the scalpels resharpened. Zia realized the creature was feeding not only on Daniel's guilt, but on her fear. She drew a breath, closed her eyes, and pictured Daniel as he was in session, fists clenched, face awash in shame. She pictured the boy Miguelito, a photograph Daniel had shown her once, missing front teeth, holding a toy aeroplane. She imagined them together, not trapped in cause and consequence, but walking in some impossible park. When her eyes opened, the bull had stepped closer. The heat of it singed her eyelashes. "Daniel," she called across the arena, "come out." A side gate opened. Two matadors half-dragged, half-suborded Daniel, who wore a borrowed fencing jacket as makeshift armor. He looked at the bull and collapsed to his knees. "Speak," Lucia urged him. Daniel coughed. "I'm sorry," he rasped. "I misread the scan. I took a risk I shouldn't. The bull bellowed. Its hide cracked, leaking black plasma that hissed on the sand. Lucia recognized the pattern. Confession weakened it, but remorse alone was not enough. "Tell him what you'd tell Miguelito," she pressed, gesturing to the shadow. Daniel sobbed. "Miguelito, you should be alive. You should have felt every sunrise since." Lucia's own chest constricted. Tears blurred the bull's outline until it looked less like an animal than a cloud desperate for shape. She sensed a tide within her, an undertow of memories she kept sealed. The smell of brine, a siren, the moment her brother slipped beneath a Cantabrian wave while she stood on the rocks, 18 and paralyzed by indecision. For 19 years she counseled others to process regret, yet never processed her own. The bull's eyes found hers. The creature inhaled, and the arena lights flickered with the color of seawater. It was sucking her hidden guilt into itself, growing again. The horns lengthened, grafting surf-worn driftwood to scalpels. Alejandro cursed. "It feeds on any regret it tastes. You must step back." "No," Lucia muttered. "We must finish what I ask my patience to begin." She approached until the bull's breath stirred her hair. She laid her palm on its forehead. It felt like touching a furnace wrapped in velvet. "Javier," she whispered, the name she had not spoken aloud for years. "I froze on the rocks. I thought the wave would spit you out. I was wrong. I thought our father could save you. He couldn't. I built a life pretending I had no blood on my hands. I do." The bull shuddered. Its skin flickered with images. A boy in swimming trunks, a hospital bed, a surgeon's trembling pen, layers of regret stacked like transparency sheets. Lucia continued, voice cracking, "I forgive myself the limits of that moment. I was a child. I forgive you for diving where the current met the cliff. I refuse to let that day trample every day since." She exhaled, and with the breath something loosened in her chest. A knot older than college, older than her vocation. Warmness spread through her limbs. Not elation, but restoration. The bull's hide split with a sound like wet canvas tearing. Light gold, then white, poured from the fracture. The creature staggered, decreasing in mass, horns shrinking to ordinary bone. In its eyes flickered confusion, then relief. Daniel stood, wiping his face. He took 3 hesitant steps and placed his palm beside Lulia's. "I let the parents hate me because it felt right," he said, "but it helps no one. Miguelito, I am sorry, and I will carry your memory as promise, not penance." The bull exhaled a gust that carried the smell of burned lavender and folded onto its knees. Its body diffused. becoming translucent, then thousands of tiny motes drifting upward like sparks. The particles rose past the sodium lamps, through the ceiling, perhaps beyond the city's perpetual haze. Silence claimed the arena. Rosa retrieved her fallen cape, staring at Lucia as if witnessing myth rewrite itself. Manuel crossed himself. Hector's prosthetic hand tapped his chest in an improvised salute. Alejandro approached, eyes moist. "I've killed sombras for 40 years," he said quietly. "Never saw one choose to die peacefully." "It wasn't death," Lucia replied, voice hoarse. "It was integration. The guilt found a place to rest." Alejandro nodded, unsure whether to revere or fear whatever power she had wielded. Finally, he smiled. "You dance well for a pacifist." "I spoke well," she corrected. "The dance was inside." The sun was pinking the edges of the roofs when Lucia and Daniel emerged onto Calle de la Palma. A stray cat darted between trash bins, chasing nothing. The city looked ordinary. Coffee steam rising from cafes, commuters cursing the endless construction on the metro line. Ordinary, except Lucia noticed a hush, as if an invisible pressure had lifted. Daniel inhaled, surprised by the unremarkable dawn. "Will the sombra return?" "Not as it was," she said. "Regret evolves. So must we." Alejandro exited the bar behind them, locking the door. He offered Lucia a small envelope. Inside lay a scarlet thread taken from Isabel Delgado's cape. "A reminder," he said. "Some bulls are made to be forgiven." Lucia pocketed the thread. "And some matadors are made to retire twice," she teased. He laughed, a sound like gravel finding sunlight. "Perhaps, but tonight Madrid will sleep easier, thanks to you." As they parted, Lucia felt no triumph, only an abiding quiet. She had entered an arena with no sword, armed only with language and a willingness to bleed truth. She had confronted a shadow shaped by another man's guilt and discovered her own reflection inside its ribs. In dissolving the bull, she had not erased regret. She had transformed it into something lighter than air. She looked up. The rooftops were crowded with pigeons that hadn't scattered at the garbage trucks or the construction drills. They sat perfectly still, as if listening for hoofbeats that no longer echoed. Lucia thought of Miguelito, of Javier, of every pain that still prowled the city in ungiven apologies. She would not become a matadora, but she would return to her office with new tools invisible to insurance forms. When her patients spoke of monsters, she would believe them. And when the next sombra found a spine beneath Madrid's streets, perhaps words not steel would greet it first.